On October 17, 2029, every screen on Earth turned black at the exact same second. Every radio went dead. Every bird fell out of the sky mid-flight, and 8 billion people heard the same 3 words inside their heads. We are already here. This is the true story of the only man who answered back. Now the story begins. My name was Elias Crowe. Just Elias Crowe. No middle name, no legacy, no destiny. I was 29, living in a one-bedroom above a laundromat in Astoria, Queens, working night shift at a 24-hour pharmacy because the health insurance was decent and I was terrified of dying alone like my mother did. I had exactly 2 friends, a cactus named Kevin, and a savings account with $3,412 that I never touched because touching it meant admitting I had a future. That all ended on the day the world forgot how to make noise. It started with a hum, not in my ears, inside my teeth, like when you stand too close to a transformer, but deeper, older. I was restocking bandages at 3:17 a.m. when the fluorescent lights flickered once, twice, then died. The backup generator never kicked in, the street lights outside went dark, even the refrigerators in the back stopped humming. For the first time in my life, I heard true silence, and it was so complete it felt like drowning. Then my phone lit up on its own. Black screen, white text, 3 words, perfectly centered. "We are already here," I laughed. Nervous, stupid laugh. Thought it was a prank, some 4chan thing, a global hack. I tried to call my coworker Marcus, who was supposed to relieve me in 40 minutes. No signal. Tried 911, nothing. Walked to the front windows. The city was gone, not destroyed, gone, like someone pulled the plug on reality itself. No cars moving on the RFK bridge, no planes in the sky. Even the Hudson River had stopped flowing. It just sat there, flat and glass still, reflecting a moon that looked bruised purple. I stepped outside. My shoes didn't make a sound on the pavement. No echo, no wind. I screamed my own name just to hear something, anything. And the scream died the second it left my throat, swallowed by the silence like it never existed. That's when I saw the first body, Mrs. Alvarez from 3B, lying on her side in the middle of 31st Street, eyes open, mouth frozen mid-scream. But she wasn't dead. Her chest rose and fell in perfect slow rhythm. She was asleep. Everyone was asleep. Every single person I found for the next 3 hours, curled up exactly where they'd fallen, breathing but gone. 8 billion people, taken somewhere else while their bodies waited on pause. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Something inside me refused. Like a hand had reached into my chest and clamped down on my heart, whispering, "Not you, not yet." By dawn, if you could call that sick purple light dawn, I was the only one still walking. I broke into a police cruiser, found the shotgun, loaded it with shaking hands, drove to Manhattan because that's where people go in movies when the world ends. The George Washington Bridge was a parking lot of empty cars, doors open, coffee still steaming in cup holders. I coasted through a neutral to save gas, windows down, listening to a silence so heavy it crushed my thoughts. Times Square was a graveyard of mannequins. Thousands of bodies arranged in perfect stillness. Faces tilted up toward the billboards that now showed only one image, a slow rotating symbol that hurt to look at directly, like a circle being eaten by its own shadow. Every screen on Earth displayed the exact same symbol. I found out later even the ISS cameras were showing it, floating in the void, staring back at the dead planet. I slept in the Marriott Marquis lobby that night, curled up under a concierge desk with the shotgun across my lap, dreamed of teeth, millions of teeth, clicking together in the dark, counting something. When I woke up there was a child standing over me, barefoot, maybe 8 years old, wearing a hospital gown crusted with old blood, skin so pale it glowed, eyes completely black, no whites, no pupils, just liquid night. It spoke without moving its mouth, voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. "You're late, Elias Crowe." I raised the shotgun, hands steady for the first time since the silence began. "Who are you?" I asked. It tilted its head, like the question was cute. "We are the Hollow Choir," it said. "We have been singing since before your star learned how to burn. Your species was an accident, a note played wrong. We have come to erase the mistake." Then it smiled, and every tooth in its mouth was a tiny galaxy spinning backwards. I pulled the trigger. The shotgun clicked empty. I'd never loaded it, after all. The child thing leaned closer, but it whispered, almost tender, "You were never part of the song. That's why you're still awake. That's why we're afraid of you." Then it dissolved into black smoke that poured upward through the ceiling like reverse rain. I sat there until my legs went numb, staring at the spot where it had been, afraid of me. I was a failed poet who couldn't even keep a cactus alive. But something inside me had started to burn. 3 days later I found the first crack in reality. It was in the basement of Grand Central Terminal, behind a locked MTA door that had been welded shut in 1978. The crack was a vertical tear in the air itself, 7 feet tall, edges flickering with blue-white fire. Beyond it was nothing. Not darkness, nothing. Like looking at a page someone had erased so hard they tore through to the next one. When I reached out to touch it, the crack spoke with my mother's voice. "Elias," it said, soft, the way she used to when I had nightmares, "come home. I almost did. Instead, I punched the concrete wall until my knuckles split. Pain was proof I was still here. Pain was mine. That night, the hollow choir came for me in force. They wore the bodies of people I loved. Marcus from the pharmacy, my mother, still in her hospice bed, even Kevin the cactus, somehow 8 feet tall and dripping black sap. They didn't attack. They just stood in a circle around me on the tracks of track 61, the secret platform under the Waldorf Astoria, and started singing, not with voices, with absence. Every note they didn't sing carved another piece out of me. Memories, hopes, the smell of my mother's cigarette smoke on Sunday mornings, all of it peeled away like sunburnt skin. I felt myself getting lighter, hollow. That's when I heard the second voice. Not from them, from inside the crack. A man's voice, raw and furious and ancient. Say it back, you bastard. Say you're still here. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out at first, then I screamed. Not words, just pure refusal. The singing stopped. The stolen bodies dropped to the ground, empty again. The crack in reality flared white-hot, and something stepped through. It looked like a man once. Now it was fire wrapped in hatred, eyes like collapsing stars. Burned scars covered every inch of visible skin, glowing faintly. He stared at me for a long time. Then he spoke with a voice that made my bones ache. You're the last one. The last echo. He reached out and pressed 2 fingers to my forehead, and everything I was shattered. The moment his fingers touched my forehead, the pain was so complete it looped around into ecstasy. Imagine every nerve in your body being pulled out through your eyes, dipped in molten glass, and shoved back in backwards. That was the gentle part. I convulsed on the tracks of track 61, spine arching so hard I felt vertebrae pop like knuckles. My vision exploded into white, then fractured into a billion shards, each shard showing me a different version of Earth dying. In one, the moon cracked open and poured black ants the size of continents. In another, every child on the planet aged to dust in a single heartbeat. In a third, the sun simply apologized and turned itself off. Then the shards slammed back together, and I was looking at him again, the burned man. He was on his knees now too. His scars were moving, crawling across his skin like living lava, rearranging themselves into words I couldn't read yet. Tears of liquid fire rolled down his cheeks and hissed into steam before they hit the ground. My name was Kalen Voss, he rasped. I was the first. They made an example of me so the rest of you would never dare wake up. He grabbed my shirt with hands that weren't hands anymore, just claws of molten light, and pulled me so close I could taste the radiation coming off him. They are not aliens, Elias. They are not gods. They are the silence between heartbeats, the gap your mind skips when you try to remember a dream. They are what exists when existence forgets to exist. And they are terrified of one thing. He pressed his forehead to mine. Echoes. Then he poured himself into me. It wasn't knowledge, it was memory. Raw, unfiltered. I lived 10,000 years in 10 seconds. I watched the hollow choir arrive the first time, before humans had fire. They didn't come in ships. They unfolded out of the concept of absence itself. They looked at the universe, still young and loud and messy, and decided it was a mistake. So they began erasing. They erased the first civilization that built rings around stars, erased the ocean minds that lived in gas giants, erased the lightborn who wrote their thoughts directly onto time. Every time they erased something, they grew stronger on the silence left behind. But every erasure left an echo, a single being who refused to be deleted. Kalen Voss had been the echo of the lightborn. He fought for 900 years. He killed trillions of them. He burned entire realities to ash trying to stop the song, and when he finally fell, the choir sealed him inside the crack between worlds so no new echo could ever be born. Except they miscalculated, because every time they erase a species, the universe screams, and that scream has to go somewhere. It went into me, into the failed poet from Queens who was too stubborn to sleep. When I opened my eyes again, Kalen was gone. Only ash remained, swirling up into the shape of a man saluting before it scattered forever. But I was still burning. I stood up, and the subway platform cracked beneath my feet. Blue-white fire licked along my arms, but it didn't hurt anymore. It felt like coming home. I looked at my reflection in a broken window and almost screamed. My eyes were gone, just twin holes straight into a starfield that moved when I blinked. Across my chest, scars were writing themselves into my skin in the same crawling language Kalen had worn, and I understood every word. It said, "The last echo awakens, let the choir tremble." I laughed. For the first time since the silence began, sound came back. My laugh, raw and ugly and alive, echoing down the tunnels like a declaration of war. Then I stepped through the crack, and the war began. On the other side was not a place, it was the absence of places, a void so complete that even darkness would have felt like a hug. Floating in it were billions of human souls, tethered by threads of black light, hanging like meat in a butcher shop. They weren't dead. They were being digested slowly, their memories and emotions harvested to feed the choir. In the center hovered the thing itself. The hollow choir wasn't many. It was one, a single organism made of every silence that ever existed, shaped like a sphere of absolute black 1,000 miles wide. Around it orbited smaller nodes, each one a stolen world. I saw Mars hollowed out and cracked like an egg, Venus peeled, and Earth's moon, now just a screaming face frozen in the moment of death. It noticed me immediately. The pressure hit me like a collapsing star. Every doubt I ever had, every time I called myself worthless, every second I spent hating the man in the mirror, it weaponized all of it and shoved it down my throat. I fell to my knees in the void. The choir spoke with 8 billion stolen voices at once. Return to the song, little echo. You are tired. You are nothing. Let us finish what we began. I tasted blood. My blood, it was glowing. I looked up at the sphere and smiled with teeth that weren't teeth anymore. No, I said, and I pulled. I reached into every tethered soul and yanked, not gently. I ripped them free the way you rip duct tape off skin. 8 billion screams of rage and relief detonated at once. The choir shrieked, a sound that should have shattered reality. The threads snapped, souls flooded back toward Earth like a reverse Big Bang. And I walked forward through the storm, burning brighter with every step. The first node came for me, Venus, now a continent-sized mouth, lined with human arms. I punched straight through it. My fist came out the other side holding its heart, a black sun pulsing with stolen light. I crushed it. The explosion lit up the void for the first time in eternity. The choir began to sing the erasing note, the one that ended civilizations. I opened my mouth and sang back in the language written on my skin. My voice was every echo who ever refused to die. Kalen was in there, the Lightborn, the ocean minds, every lost soul that ever said no. The two songs collided. Reality tore open in 1,000 places. I felt my body coming apart, atoms peeling away like pages in a fire. But I kept walking. I reached the choir's surface. It tried to unmake me. I let it try. Because the thing about silence is, it needs something to be silent against. And I had become the loudest thing in the universe. I pressed both hands against the black sphere and whispered the last words Kalen ever spoke to me. Listen closely. Then I screamed the true name of the universe, the name it had before the choir decided it shouldn't exist. The sphere cracked. Just once, but once was enough. Light, real light, the kind that remembers joy, poured through the fracture. The choir began to unravel, threads of blackness whipping away into nothing. I was unraveling with it. My last thought, before the void took me, was simple. I hope someone was recording this, because humanity was about to wake up very, very angry. I didn't die. I should have, I wanted to. But the universe had one last joke left, and it was on me. The crack I made in the hollow choir widened into a screaming white wound across the void. Light, raw, newborn, furious light, poured out like blood from a god that had just remembered it could bleed. The choir convulsed, folding in on itself, trying to close the wound with every stolen silence it still owned. It almost succeeded. Then 8 billion human souls slammed back into their bodies at once. Imagine every single person on Earth gasping awake in the exact same heartbeat. Car crashes. Planes dropping out of the sky, heart attacks, miracles, mothers screaming their children's names, lovers finding each other in the dark by instinct alone. The noise came back so violently it had weight. It hit the choir like a tidal wave of pure existence, and I was the surfboard. The backlash flung me through the crack, through the void, through every layer of reality that had ever tried to forget me, and spat me out above the Atlantic Ocean at 40,000 feet, naked, burning, falling. I remember thinking, very clearly, if I hit the water like this, I'm going to make a second Mariana Trench. Then something caught me, not gently. Hands made of storm and memory wrapped around my wrists and yanked me sideways through space like a kid swinging a cat by the tail. I landed on my knees in the middle of Times Square, exactly where I'd slept under the concierge desk a lifetime ago. The city was awake, and it was beautiful in its panic. People running, screaming, crying, laughing, fighting, fucking in the streets because they were alive and they needed to feel it. Every billboard still showed the rotating symbol, but now it was cracked down the middle, leaking golden fire. I stood up. My body wasn't mine anymore. I was taller, skin like polished obsidian shot through with moving constellations, hair made of plasma that hissed when it moved, and the scars, the words of the echoes, had finished writing themselves across every inch of me. I was a walking declaration. People saw me and stopped moving. 8 million people in New York alone, and every single one of them shut up at the same time. Then they knelt, not because I told them to, because their souls remembered what I had done for them while they slept. I felt their gratitude like a drug, and I hated it, because the war wasn't over. The choir was wounded, dying, but dying things are dangerous. I looked up, the sky tore open like paper, and it fell through, not the whole choir, it couldn't fit anymore, just the part that still had teeth. It looked like a second moon made entirely of human faces, all screaming in perfect unison. Every face that had ever been erased by the choir, now stitched together into one final avatar. It spoke with my mother's voice, Marcus's voice, the little girl from the Marriott, every voice I ever loved. Elias, it said, soft, almost kind. Come finish the song. You're so tired. Let me hold you. I started walking toward it. Couldn't help it. Every step felt like forgiveness. I was 10 feet off the ground before I realized I was flying. The avatar opened its arms, a continent of stolen faces smiling through tears. I was going to let it take me. Then I heard a single voice cut through the chorus. A little boy, maybe 6, standing on a taxi in the crowd, both fists in the air. "That's my hero," he screamed. "Don't you fucking touch my hero," and 8 billion people screamed it with him. The wave of pure, messy human refusal hit me in the back like a supernova. I stopped, turned, looked at the child, looked at all of them, and I started laughing. Real ugly snot-flying laughter that shook the stars because they still didn't get it. I wasn't their hero, I was their weapon. I turned back to the avatar and smiled with too many teeth. "Hey," I said, "you want the song to end?" I opened my arms wide. "Then let me sing you the fucking chorus." I pulled everything into me. Every scream of rage from every person on Earth. Every memory of every sunrise humanity ever watched. Every first kiss. Every last breath. Every time someone whispered "I love you" like it could stop death. I took it all. My body began to crack, light pouring out of the seams. The avatar lunged. I met it halfway. We collided above Manhattan like two gods who had forgotten how to be gentle. I drove my hand straight through its chest and kept going until I found the last fragment of the hollow choir, the original silence that started it all. It looked like a single black seed, pulsing weakly. I wrapped my fingers around it and I crushed it. There was no explosion, just a sound. The sound of every throat on Earth drawing breath at the same time. Then silence, real silence, the kind that comes after a lullaby when the child is finally asleep. I fell. This time nothing caught me. I hit the pavement in Times Square hard enough to leave a crater shaped like a man. Everything went dark. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed that had been dragged into the middle of the street because the hospitals were full of people who didn't want to be inside anymore. A nurse was sitting beside me, holding my hand. She was crying. "You're awake," she whispered. I tried to speak. My throat was ash. She gave me water. I drank. Then I asked the only question that mattered, "Is it gone?" She nodded. "Sky's blue again. Birds are singing. Someone saw a whale breach off Coney Island this morning. It's really gone." I closed my eyes. Good, because I was done. I could feel myself fading. The power was leaving with the enemy. I was becoming Elias Crowe again. Small, broken, human, and that was the most terrifying thing of all. Because now I had to live. I lived. I'm 93 now, sitting on the same stoop in Astoria where Mrs. Alvarez used to smoke and tell me my fortune. Kevin the cactus finally died in 2041, but I planted his child in the same pot. Still don't have a boyfriend. Still terrified of dying alone. But I'm not alone. Every year, on October 17th, the whole world goes quiet for 1 minute. No cars, no phones, no music. 8 billion people just stop and listen. They're listening for me, making sure I'm still here, making sure the silence stays empty. I always wave at the sky even when I can't see it through the clouds, just so they know I'm still here, still stubborn, still refusing to be the last anything. Because as long as one of us is loud enough to say no, the song will never finish. And if it ever tries again, I'll be waiting, with 8 billion voices behind me, a smile that remembers how to burn.